legally, you are allowed to respond to violence in self-defense with violence in kind. That's the law. But now if you reword it that silence or words are violence, you end up with these kinds of scenarios. Now, it hasn't happened at the Oscars, but it's happened across our country. So now it only affects the elite. Guess what? This kind of behavior has been affecting many of you for a very long amount of time. This is actually a really important moment for society at large, and it's an important moment specifically for entertainers, for comedians, for anyone who actually speaks publicly for a living. And people who act as though this is just some kind of a disagreement or something that happened at the Oscars, you're missing the point. So let me just show you, for those of you who missed it, Will Smith standing up for his, wife.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
He's laughing until he sees that she's
See the
mad.
look on her face. And this is how you know that they're in a horrible marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
That's because someone else's balls are in hers.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, and that's the moment you were like, oh, this isn't staged.
Yeah, right.
He's actually upset.
Yeah. He's upset because that's pent-up rage from being embarrassed publicly by his
Wife for so long.
So long.
That's really the reality of the entire situation, is he has been humiliated by her, and then when she looked at him, he's a cuck. I mean, I hate to say it. Like, that's such a cheap word to me.
But it's the actual.
But that's the actual terminology, and now he's getting up because he's ashamed.
Right.
He's scared of her.
Oh, yeah.
She's mentally abusive. Who knows physically, but mentally abusive.
Yeah.
The second he sees the rage in her, he gets up, and that's his reaction.
Yeah.
Get out of your marriage, Will.
Yeah.
That's a horrible place you're in. You're in a I felt, honestly, I love Chris Rock too, and he did nothing wrong at all. I'm going to say that. And Will Smith, I think that he's just broken right now because of that woman.
Yeah, I think so too.
He needs to get out, and I don't think people should be piling on him the way that they are.
Yeah.
It was just a mistake.
Well, he's completely out of line.
100% out of line, but he's also 100% mentally not there right now.
Well, people need to talk about, if they're going to talk about violence, right, and as though words are violence, they need to talk about an issue that, really we don't deal with in society, that women can mentally abuse men. Women, I don't know if you know this, single moms are more likely to be physically abusive towards children than single dads. That's a fact. Women are more likely to be physically abusive in marital relationships. And not to mention the mental abuse is something that's hard to quantify. Yeah. It's something, it's a variable that's sort of hard to actually, it's not tangible. But it is something that takes place quite a bit. And I think we've all witnessed this happen with Will Smith.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is a big reason, so people know, this is a big reason that men don't get help. It's a big reason that men don't, we always talk about mental health issues in the country, but the truth is, if Will Smith were to go and get help and they get divorced, guess what? She's going to try and use that against him. She's going to try and claim that he has mental instability problems and absolve herself of sleeping around with multiple guys and embarrassing him on a public stage. So that is true. I do have empathy for Will Smith. Now, here's the thing. So they want to justify, joking about baldness, and now that's a disability. Well, interesting that people should bring that up, because we have this clip on Arsenio Hall, the Arsenio Hall show with Will Smith from, some years ago.
That in this world, man. You can't do that in this world, man. Arsenio, they got rules. They got rules. Like, he has a rule. The bass player, he got a rule. He got to wax his head every morning. That's a rule. He follows the rules, man.
Yes,
he follows the rules. Oh, these are jokes. Come on. See, you got too into the characters and got hurt.
Should someone have slapped him?
Oh, it's a joke. Come on.
Still better than anything on Late Night Now.
Yep, that's absolutely true. There are no dancing vaccines.
Nope.
Oh, thank God.
It's a joke, man. Hey, come on, bring in the Pfizer, man.
Don't you just long for the days of Yo Mama jokes on national television?
Yeah, when you long for the days of the Wilmer Valderrama show on MTV, Yo Mama.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, that would be better.
Yes.
Right. Well, and I know a lot of people are bringing up the 2016 stuff with Chris Rock going after Jada Pinkett Smith, and they were funny jokes because she was boycotting the Oscars because Will Smith wasn't nominated for Concussion, and saying like, oh, it's like you weren't invited to
Ironically,
the Oscars.
he gave Chris Rock one.
Well, yes, that's true. Not really. Chris took a good one.
He took a good one. He has a great chin.
Going, right? He kept going. But they were saying like, oh, this is just Carrey. That was almost 6 years ago.
They're great jokes, though. He's like, it isn't fair that
funny.
she didn't get a nomination, but it's also not fair that you got $20 million for Wild Wild West. And he's right. And it's a funny joke.
It was funny, yeah.
Anybody who's made a bad movie has acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that's part of it. Like, you have to acknowledge, and I understand that now it's social media and it's a different world where you're constantly being attacked every second of every day. So I understand how that can wear on you. So it's a little bit different now than the days before. But really with this, it's like you're going after somebody who deals with the same stuff that you do on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think you're right. The most interesting dynamic here to me is this fallout of the left running around like chickens with their heads cut off because they, before this, have deemed this kind of behavior acceptable. And I'm going to lay out the case for you here because I've had to deal with this quite a bit. They've made the argument that words are violence. They've made the argument that no words are violence. Silence is violence. So when you say words are violence or silence is violence, well, guess what? Legally, you are allowed to respond to violence in self-defense with violence in kind. That's the law. But now if you reword it that silence or words are violence, you end up with these kinds of scenarios. Now, it hasn't happened at the Oscars, but it's happened across our country. So now it only affects the elite. Guess what? This kind of behavior has been affecting many of you for a very long amount of time. Business owners, Black Lives Matter riots, your apartments, Chaz, your precincts, your cities, homeless epidemics where people are being attacked, being raped in record, Cologne, Germany, raped in record numbers. This is the thing, right? You say things that they don't like, they can respond in kind with violence, and then the left ultimately coddles them, protects them, and says, well, that wasn't really right, but you shouldn't have said that. Remember when that transgender threw a lunchbox at me when I was doing a Change My Mind at the Women's March? She said, well, you knew that you were trying to trigger that person. It could not be less relevant. This is how they have been behaving for a very long time, and now the mob is coming for them. And now there are, unfortunately, some comedians who are in the mob. But before we get to that, there was one person, and this is a perfect example. I agree with Jim Carrey here. I think this is the most lucid Jim Carrey has been in probably ever.
Yeah,
honestly.
when I first heard Jim Carrey commented on it, I was like, great. Then I was like, really? You're on the right side of this?
And you actually were able to speak?
Wow, that's insane.
I thought you were going to talk about mercury and vaccines and stuff.
It's going to be another dehumanizing painting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So here's Ace Ventura himself, where he responded and actually called this reporter on something that she said, I think, rightfully so, effectively. And what this reporter is saying is also echoing what you're seeing across liberal TikTok and Twitter. And I'll show you that clip after. But first, Jim Carrey.
What did you think as you watched it unfold and then what happened after?
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore. If you want to yell from the audience and disapprove or show a disapproval or say something on Twitter or whatever, you do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
No, I agree. I think we all agree on that. I just thought, Jim, that it escalated to that. You know what I mean? That it escalated to that level.
It didn't escalate. Exactly. It came out of nowhere because Will has something going on inside him that's frustrated, and I wish him the best. I really do. I don't have anything against Will Smith. He's done great things. But that was not a good moment.
I wouldn't say that I wish Will Smith the best. I don't wish him the worst, but the best is a little bit of a strong word. Now, here's what's funny about that. Two things where he says, well, you can't respond to words with violence. Here's a tweet from Jim Carrey supporting Black Lives Matter after the Minneapolis riots. We have $2 billion in damages from those protests, and this tweet was in response to the mayor posting a Black Lives Matter mural. Again, think about that. There's not a condemnation of violence there. It's Black Lives Matter and a fist. They just burned down cities. Now you're mad about a slap? Americans have had to deal with violence in response to opinions for the last 3 years of their lives. You had to deal with it for one night. One person had to deal with it for one night. And now you're dumbfounded. And what I do agree with him, though. I thought it was really important and poignant that he called her on it when she said, well, it escalated. No. Escalation, right? Escalation. Think about it. You're talking about steps.
Well, it has to escalate.
Exactly.
It doesn't go from I was laughing to the most psychotic breakdown possible
in
a matter of a second.
That's not escalation.
No, that's
an explosion.
Yes.
Yeah. And look, all we're asking for is consistency. We would love for Jim Carrey to hold that opinion across the board and say, look, if you still want to support Black Lives Matter, you have to separate yourself from everything that they're doing and go, I believe that black people's lives matter, but I don't like that organization because they're burning down cities and they're violent.
Right.
That's what you have to do.
Well, and he's right, though, that Hollywood's they're not the cool kids anymore, and it's a result of the fact of what Americans have been dealing with for the last couple of years.
But that also tells you what he thinks. He thought that they were the cool kids.
Yeah. Also, to that point, we just got this sent to us by the Edit Bay. The Oscars were sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Wow, wonderful.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that is disgusting.
Oh, so this is the whole point.
I hate everything.
Chris Rock wasn't boosted,
Oh
and that's
my
what
gosh!
really
Yeah,
set
that's
him
what
off.
happened.
Yeah,
that's what happened. He's going to be in the hospital with concussion, and
Yeah.
they'll say COVID-related
I'm
injuries.
sorry, I had the Johnson & Johnson. That's why I did it. Get the Pfizer.
I screwed up. I got the AstraZeneca. Will Smith just slapped the shit out of. He just slapped the booster out of me.
cured of COVID.
For crying out loud.
I love that I'm sorry, I still find it hilarious that he won the Oscar.
Hey, don't you remember?
It's so funny to me. Like, you know, he
minutes
wouldn't
later.
have done that if he was like, I actually got it. I'm Will
geez,
Smith.
yeah.
I never thought I'd get it.
It's like Spike Lee getting up and walking out. He's like, "Oh, I won?
Yeah, like on the way out, he's like, wait, best director.
Oh,
really?
yeah, I think I'll come back.
It's
I
just-
do believe I can party
I
with
was
you people."
crying laughing, regardless of how ridiculous his speech was when he thanked,
Yeah.
level 8 Tython or whatever
Yes,
it is.
exactly.
His god.
He came out with his thetan testing cans.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
I need to
My
smack
hand
more
hurts,
comedians.
but
Now, here's the thing. Apparently, and this is from the left, there were multiple acts of violence. Again, this is the point of view of the left. You see it from Jim Carrey supporting Black Lives Matter, supporting Antifa, right? They're saying that right-wing extremists are a problem. Antifa is not a terrorist organization. You can go back to my Change My Minds where I said Black Lives Matter and Antifa are domestic terror organizations. I walk that back absolutely zero. These same celebrities supported them, and you can see where they are getting these, just like you can see where they're getting the talking points on the vaccines if they're sponsored by them.
yeah.
Right? They're beholden to these organizations. They're beholden to these leftist ideological groups. They have to. You see it with Disney, with the Florida it's not don't say gay, it's don't teach kids about sex change operations bill. Maybe we can,
Right.
I don't know if you can fit that in a bumper
Different,
sticker.
yeah.
But here you see from a leftist activist echoing what was supported by people like Jim Carrey and people in Hollywood, saying that there were actually that night, Chris Rock and Will Smith, 3 acts of violence.
So we witnessed 3 acts of violence at the Oscars last night. The first was from Chris Rock, who invited an entire predominantly white international audience to laugh at Jada Pinkett Smith
Which is it,
because
white
of
or
her
international?
disability. Now, oftentimes,
You can have
comedians, people use black women, making fun of black women, humiliating black women as a way to build their own social capital. It's a way to
He's a black
engage
comedian.
in an act of anti-blackness, but it seems like it's just
The way you're
patriarchal.
using black
And that way
women
you can
to get
please
capital?
your predominantly white male audience base. The second act of violence
Is
was
your
the audience
rollerblade gloves?
laughing. Everyone went along with it. That was the performance that
Including
I
Will
thought
Smith.
that I would be responding to. But then, because I would have made this video regardless, but then Will Smith got up on the stage and did the third act of violence, which was smacking Chris Rock in the face. And it's interesting
The only act of
who's
violence.
getting condemned. What acts of violence get condemned? Why officers of the state are being invited to get involved for some reason. Why some people want some people to be criminalized.
Because one's a felony, you crazy bitch!
No, that's said
That's
right.
violence.
Yeah, I agree.
Steven. That's violence.
It's interesting. There are 3 acts of violence. The final act of violence, and it's interesting which one people are condemning. Because since the beginning of time, people say things that you don't like, and you use your words. You don't get to hit comedians for making jokes. This is what the left does. Just like with Black Lives Matter, they equivocate. It's, well, you know what? These people are mad. Rioting is the language of the unheard. Hey, silence is violence. We see this here. There were 3 acts of violence. One was making fun of a black woman. That's an act of violence, apparently. Don't know if she would feel the same way in making fun of I don't know, white male. The other is the audience laughing. The audience laughing is an act of violence? Violence is a
laughter.
proactive action. Laughter is an involuntary reaction.
Correct.
That, by the way, doesn't necessitate physical contact with someone else's face.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.